welcome to the third stop in our virtual Whistle Stop Tour series. My name is Nikki Johnson, Executive Director of the North Carolina Small Grain Growers Association, and we're happy to have you watching today from home. Today we are here in sunny Rougemont in Orange County, and we are filming the Whistle Stop Tour to talk about ryegrass issues and calculating wheat yield estimations. I'm here with Dr. Angela Post and the crops agent Mart, and I want to thank Joe Phelps for allowing us to come and take a look at his wheat today. We hope you enjoyed today's video. As always, it'll be posted on our website if you want to view afterward. Feel free to share it with others. Let us know what you think, and as always, if there's anything that we can do to help you, just please let us know. We're sorry you can't be here in person to see it in the field yourself, but we want everybody to stay safe and stay home. So enjoy it from the comfort of your own living room and stay safe.
Hello, my name is Mart Bumgarner, the Orange County Cooperative Extension Crops and Horticulture Agent. We're here at Joe Phelps wheat field. We really appreciate him allowing us to come and film. Orange County is a balanced county. We have about 50% of our farm agriculture comes from livestock. The other is from farmers growing agricultural products. We have approximately 15 to 20 small grain wheat growers throughout Orange County. Our fields range from anywhere from 5 to 10 acres up to about 50 to 70 acres throughout the county.
Okay, I'm Joe Phelps from Orange County. I was born and raised on a farm in Orange County. We still have the family farm of about 125 acres. I went to school, went to a technical institute, got out, and went back to farming and farmed for 10 or 12 years, and quit farming for a while and got in real estate. And I'm still in real estate now, but I do farming part-time, and I still do real estate pretty much full-time. You have to be able to support farming, so I sell real estate so I can farm. I lease land. This is a lease field that I have of wheat. It's Viper wheat. I planted it towards the end of October. I don't know the exact date, but towards the end. Put about 2 bushels, about 120 pounds of wheat to the acre. Put 300 pounds of 12-24-22 fertilizer. And it's conventional. I harrowed it up last summer. It had wheat on it the prior year. I sprayed it in December. These fields had some ryegrass. I sprayed it with Osprey, and I did a pretty good job of killing the ryegrass. I came back in about the 1st of March and sprayed 75 units of liquid nitrogen. I put Harmony and Karate with it and top dressed it, and then hadn't been back in the field till today. I enjoy farming. I enjoy the friendship of all the farmers. We all get along real well and like to tell good stories and bad stories and get people feeling sorry for us, and then we brag when we do good. But it's just I actually raise wheat and corn for a distillery in Durham that makes vodka and blended whiskey, and so I supply them with that. Been doing that for several years. I got back into farming about 4 years ago. We leased our land out, and the farmer had about all he could do, so I got back into this and started producing this wheat and corn for the distillery, and I sell my excess to the open market. I just enjoy farming. I was raised on it. I really enjoy being out, not having to get away from the stress of the real estate, and just out here by yourself, and you don't have to worry about pleasing anybody or listening to anybody. So it's just a good feeling to be able to produce crops and be successful and make food for people so they can feed it to their livestock and horses and whatnot.
We're out in Orange County today taking a look at Viper, Syngenta Viper wheat, and I wanted to give you all kind of a tutorial on how to take a yield estimation in your field. And this can be done by you as a farmer, but also it can be done by extension agents
by coming out to your fields and making yield estimations, they can help you make the final management decisions in your wheat at this time of year. So when to make a yield estimation? First, you want to make sure that your wheat is fully headed, and typically I like to take these after we're either squarely in flowering or just past flowering, so we can see that all of the kernels on that head are going to make a grain. So in this case, we have fully headed and we have finished flowering. So we're taking a look at each one of these grains and trying to count how many kernels are going to be there on a per area basis. So I tend to take these in a square foot area. So in a 7.5 inch row, which is what most folks have in the state of North Carolina, 7.5 inch drilled rows, you're going to capture all of the wheat heads that are in that 1 square foot area, and you're just going to scroll through them really quickly and count them. So that will give you the number of wheat heads that you have in a given area. Now, the rule of thumb that most growers have always gone by is however many heads I have in that area is how many bushels of wheat I'm going to make on that ground. But that's not necessarily equivalent to 1 head in a square foot equals 1 bushel to the acre, because many of our wheat varieties these days have differing number of seeds per pound. So we really want to know if we're making test weight wheat, how many kernels in an acre is going to equate to how many bushels that we're expecting to make. So after you know the number of heads in that square foot, you're then going to want to count the number of kernels you expect that head to make. My quick rule of thumb on that is I count 1 row of one side of the wheat head and I multiply that by 3. Generally the wheat head is going to make about that many kernels. So in this case I'm counting them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I have 8 rows of spikelets here, and I expect that to make about 24 kernels for this head. So you're going to multiply the number of heads you have by the number of kernels that you expect. So in this case I counted 46 heads per square foot, and I'm going to multiply that by 24 kernels here. And then you want to multiply that out to equate to an entire acre. So you're going to multiply by the number of square feet in 1 acre, 43,560. And then you should have something in the range of 40 to 50 million kernels is what that number should look like. After you have the number of kernels that you expect to get off of this acre, you're going to divide it down by the actual seeds per pound that your particular variety is expected to make. For Viper, this year wheat that came into the official variety testing program had 11,100 seeds per pound. So for this variety, I'm going to use that number. And then you're going to divide that number by 60, which is the standard test weight for soft red winter wheat. That will give you an indication of the yield estimation you have at that particular point in your field. Now, 1 square foot estimate in 1 set of acres is not necessarily enough to give you a really excellent look at what you're expected to yield. So go to several areas in your field, take several individual yield estimations, and then average them together. It would be just like staring at your yield monitor and seeing 60 bushel in the bottom area where it was wet, and then seeing 80 bushel in those higher yielding areas of your field, so that you can average those things together. This farmer planted 2 varieties of wheat. We're first here looking at the Viper, and we've done a yield estimation here where we counted 53 heads in a square foot area. So with 53 heads per square foot counted in this field, then I'm going to take that number and multiply it by the number of kernels I expect in each head. I've counted several heads out here, and I expect to see an average of 27 kernels per head in this field. So I multiply my 53 heads per square foot times the number of square feet in an acre, 43,560, and then I multiply that number times the number of kernels I expect to see in each head, in this case 27. And for that I will end up with the total number of kernels that I would expect from an entire acre. Then I can take that very large number and divide it back down by the number of seeds that would be in an average pound of Viper, in this case 11,100, and the number of pounds of wheat that I expect in a standard bushel, which is 60 for soft red winter wheat. And that will give us the yield estimation for this particular field, which we have calculated as 81 bushels per acre. So we're standing now in a field of Shirley. This field is a little less uniform, meaning the heads are kind of more up and down in this particular field than the other field. But again, they received the same management practices. This one was planted just a little bit later, so the first week of November. And in that situation, we also had a little bit higher seeding rate. In this field, we're planted on 7.5-inch rows. So I'm taking a measurement 12 inches and capturing the number of wheat heads across 2 rows of this wheat to get an estimation of how many heads there are per square foot. And again, multiplying that up to a full acre, which is 43,560 square foot. We've done 2 yield estimations. In one of our square foot areas, we counted 53 wheat heads per square foot, and in one of the areas, we counted 47 heads per square foot. This equates for Shirley to between 61 and 67 bushels per acre, which is quite a bit lower than the field we looked at in Viper. If we look closely at these wheat heads, they're quite a bit shorter and have fewer kernels per head than the Viper wheat that we looked at earlier. This is not necessarily varietal, but what happened for that variety in a particular environment for a given year. In this case, the Shirley was planted a little bit later, the first week of November compared to the end of October. Also, the wheat here is about 10 days behind the Viper, so if we look closely at these heads, they are still in flower and the anthers are still hanging on, versus the Viper where all of the anthers have already dried and fallen and we're finished with flowering. So another topic we want to cover out here in Orange County today is management of Italian ryegrass in your fields. Italian ryegrass is Lolium multiflorum, and it's a weedy grass that we have in North Carolina. It's one of our main weedy grasses for wheat production. The other one would be annual bluegrass, or Poa annua. We don't really have any problem with that out here in this field, but we do have Italian ryegrass. You can see some of the seed heads standing up above the canopy at this point because the ryegrass heads around the same time as wheat. And the issue we have with that is then when you harvest that wheat, you're going to be harvesting the ryegrass seed along with it. And if you aren't able to turn your fan speed up because of low test weight or some other issue, then you're going to be collecting that ryegrass seed in the same grain bin with your wheat, and that's going to cause you to have dockage when you go to sell that wheat. If you are selling it for certified seed, it will typically not be accepted for that if there's a high percentage of ryegrass. So it's really important to control this grass in your wheat fields if you're selling for milling and baking quality, or if you're selling for certified seed. If you're selling for feed wheat, it's less important to manage that weed, except for that it's taking resources away from your wheat. But in feed wheat, it would typically be acceptable because it's perfectly consumable by livestock. So this grower actually did a very good job controlling the ryegrass in this field. Where we're seeing it, and what the images you're going to see here today are along the very edge of the field where there was just not good overlap for that application, and we did not get the ryegrass controlled in the very edge of the field. But the interior of the field is very clean. This is from an osprey application in December, which is an excellent time to get that out. It's better to make those herbicide applications as early as possible. So fall applications, and in this case a December application, is much better than waiting to make a spring application. The other flexibility that this gave this particular grower is not having to pay attention to that 14 days window to wait to make a top dress application. Because he made his osprey application in December, he is not expecting to top dress until later in the spring, and so that window is already going to be met by the time he's ready to top dress. And that gave him an excellent opportunity to improve yield by removing those weeds and not having to delay his top dress application in the spring until too late of a timing. If you decide that osprey is the only option for you because you either because you waited too long or you're not sure you have a ryegrass problem until after that ryegrass is up, again, fall applications are going to be more effective. But if you do wait until the spring, you also have to observe a 14-day space between the application of that osprey and the timing of your nitrogen top dress. If you apply nitrogen too close to an osprey application, you will experience injury on your wheat crop, and it can be fairly severe. So you want to be very careful about those applications. Osprey still needs to be processed by that wheat plant, and that's why we have the space before we make a nitrogen application so that the plant has time to clear that product. The best recommendation I have for that is to try and get out there as early as possible in the spring to make an osprey application if you're seeing ryegrass. It is challenging when wheat is fully tillered, if you're not sure what to look for, to find ryegrass in the field. The best thing you can do whenever wheat is fully tillered and ryegrass is fully tillered, but you have no heads to compare, is to go out on a bright sunny day like we have here today and look for those shiny leaves, and that will give you an indication that you have Italian ryegrass as an issue. It really has a bright shiny underside of that leaf, and you can discern it from wheat in that way even if it's inside the wheat row. Again, making an early application would be better. That gives you flexibility to make sure you can still get your nitrogen top dress on time and you're not sitting and waiting while your wheat is needing nitrogen. For post-emergent control of Italian ryegrass in wheat, we have the main option of osprey, which is what most growers choose, but we also have axial, which can be applied post-emergent again to very small ryegrass. The issue we have with either of those products is we are starting to see resistance to those products in pockets in our state, so you want to be very cognizant after you've made an application if you are seeing escapes where you are sure that you have made a good application. If you do see escapes, you can be in touch with our small grains weed scientist, Dr. Wes Everman. They perform testing to determine if we have true resistance to particular herbicide products in our state. Pre-emergent options and or spike stage applications that would occur very early in the growing season, the options for those include Anthem Flex, Zidua, or Axiom. Anthem Flex is labeled as a true pre-emergent application, which you can apply at the time of planting or even just before or just after planting and before the wheat plants are emerged. The Zidua application needs to be made at the spike stage, so several days after planting when you can actually row the wheat. So you start to see those seedling spikes come above the soil surface, then you go out there and make that Zidua application. This is a little bit more challenging application for wheat growers because many times we're using a dry granular fertilizer product at the time of planting, or we're using chicken litter or poultry litter of some sort at the time of planting, and we're not necessarily out there with our sprayers like we would be in other crops. But I will say that applications of pre and spike stage for Italian ryegrass have given us excellent control across the state for growers who are using them, and I would recommend them above that osprey application if you're able to include that in your management practice.